I'm Kiera Morgan. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Coffee with Kiera. We are sponsored by the Human Being in Newport and Lincoln City. And today, with the holidays coming up, we are talking about mental health. And also, I have Cari Brandburg here with the Newport Fishermen's Wives, talking about the fishermen and how to keep them safe during this holiday time as well. So, Jesse, let's start off with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Jessie Noble. I'm the Regional Overdose Prevention Coordinator for Lynn, Benton, and Lincoln counties here with Lincoln County Public Health. I provide outreach around the community as well as in Lynn and Benton counties, providing resources to support mental health, substance use prevention, overdose prevention, and also to formulate wraparound supports. When we have an event in the community that might impact everybody, we can provide additional outreach to make sure that we are providing education and mental health supports for folks who might have experienced any sort of negative impacts from that.
And Cari, tell us a little bit about, most folks know you already, but for those who may not.
Hopefully you don't. My name is Cari Brandburg, and I'm with Newport Fishermen's Wives. I've been the treasurer for about 10 years now, but I've been a board member for almost 20 years.
So. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And recently our mission with Fishermen's Wives, everyone has heard the headlines now. So obviously cold water survival is a big part of our mission currently today. But in the last couple of years, we've been working through fishermen's holistic health. So looking at mental health supports for fishermen, physical health support for fishermen, cold water safety support for fishing boats and fishermen, and also incorporating recovery efforts for fishermen that are struggling, because fishermen are one of the number one, if not the number one industry to have a high risk for opioid and other issues. And the reason that they've been hit so hard by the opioid epidemic is because they are injured on the job a lot. And a lot of people don't realize that fishermen they're independently employed, they're self-employed. And so they don't have healthcare insurance and all these things. And if it isn't a clear case of getting hurt on the boat and getting insurance, then they're down a long road of trying to figure out how they're going to support their families and themselves, working through injuries. And it comes out of a legitimate way. These aren't just drug seekers necessarily. And I think that's a big misconception from people. And I think we want people to realize, or I would like people to realize, that addiction can come out of just survival and out of coping. And so we see that a lot in our fishing community. And we've been really brainstorming on how we can support fishermen and fisherwomen and fisher families. So.
And all of this came about from the Fishermen's Appreciation Day that you recently held.
Yeah, we've myself and Amelia Vaughn, who is part of OSU Health, she has been helping me along the way as we've, for a couple of years now, been researching how we can work on supporting more of fishermen's holistic health. And that looks like financial health, that looks like safety support on the boat, personal flotation devices, addiction recovery, financial support through the OCCC. So we've invited all of these people to come to our Fishermen's Appreciation so fishermen can see all of this different support in their community, targeted just individually to fishermen and their needs.
And Cari, you come from a fishing family, so you have a long history of seeing how the industry and how things have changed for fishermen. Can you talk a little bit about that?
For sure. I am a fisherman's daughter, and we moved here in the 80s during recession. My dad was in construction, like a lot of fishermen, and the recession hit hard, and we were from Portland, and my dad came here for work. And I understand family struggles, because when my family came here, my dad chose to bring his family here. There was lack of housing, just like there is now. There was lack of HUD. It was a long waiting period. We didn't have that income to come down. We lived in our van for a while at Port Dock 7, and my mother is disabled, and my mother was really sick at the time, and my father was fishing on the back deck of a little boat, just figuring out how to do it at almost 30 years old.
Wow.
So that was a struggle for our family until we signed up for housing like you're supposed to, and finally a house came through, and we got a house. That house has been bulldozed now, and there's all kinds of other things there. But it was a couple of Christmases before we had a Christmas tree. I have gotten presents from Salvation Army. I've seen what comes when it's just based on donations and not on grants. And, I was 10 and got a Curious George book, for Christmas one year, and that was it. So, they're had our family further away out of the area, trying to survive on our own. A local church helped us through when my mom was sick, through something like fostering families, and they took me and my brother in and took care of us for a while to keep us together. So I've watched, and now my parents do great, and they owned multiple homes, and they were landlords themselves. And my father's retiring, semi-retiring now. Although he's going to go crabbing this year, even at 75 years old.
Yep. You can't make them stop once they start.
My dad, and that's the biggest misconception I tell people, is my dad went to work every single day of my life, and he still does. And my family struggled, and we had food stamps, and we had Oregon Medical Plan, and we had things to help us get through. And so I just always want to be that relatable person to people that don't think that because we have a business and we have a boat now and we're at where we are now that I don't understand the struggle, because I do. And I think we've all been hit by addiction, all of our families. My family has been hit by mental health struggles and addiction. Not my parents at that time. So again, another misconception that people have. So I think that it's important that as a community, we are coming to fishermen who you don't know what's going on at home. They're seasonal workers. Income is not always there. You go to work a lot of the year with no paycheck. And that's a reality. So learning to financially be able to support yourself, to manage money, to look at nutrition, because they're not taking care of themselves maybe out on the ocean. They're thinking about their family. They're out there to do what they need to do. And it supports us as a nation, right? They're providing food for all of us. So it's so important that we understand that fishermen can break a lot of misconceptions we have about people in our community who need community support.
And Jesse, let's talk a little bit about what that community support looks like from your end and what resources are available for not just fishermen, but anybody who may need some extra help this time of year.
Absolutely. Lincoln County Public Health has amazing resources. We have a really robust behavioral health program that can help folks cope with any number of stressors, from financial stressors to addictions. We also have our OBAT program, which is a medicated assisted treatment for folks who are struggling with opioid use. We also have our harm reduction program, and we have one of the broadest harm reduction programs in Oregon for a small rural community. We have mobile outreach from 2 different vans. We also have a mobile outreach nurse once a week who can assist with medical care, vaccinations. So when folks are unable to meet specific timelines due to the irregularity of their fishing schedule, we have this mobile outreach that can also come and help to accommodate our fishing communities, which is really, really valuable. They can be reached at 541-265-0404 at any point in time, and you can schedule either a fixed site visit at locations they go to weekly, or they can come to you for any number of things. And that can be as basic as self-care and hygiene supplies. It could be for things like sexual health, STI testing, and linkage to care. It could also be for addictions, linkage to care for that. We also provide things like safer use supplies and syringe exchange, and that is for folks who are using medical as well. So there tends to be a lot of stigma around harm reduction and maybe seeking those resources, but these are for everybody in the community, whether you're utilizing illicit opioids or whether you're taking diabetic medication, cancer drugs, hormone therapies. These resources can be really challenging for folks, especially with financial limitations. It is not cheap to drop a shark fin off at the dump, but we can come and pick those up for free, provide new equipment for you, and make sure that folks are getting the medical care that they need on their schedule where they're at.
That's really important. And let's talk a little bit about, as Cari mentioned, mental health.
Absolutely.
That's really important as we come into holiday stressors. Yes, the holidays are a time for family and getting together, and we always think about giving, but it also creates a lot of financial stress for families. And as Cari mentioned, having to work every day and not knowing how that paycheck's going to come in. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It's incredibly stressful, not simply for the folks who are actively engaged in fishing, but for the families as well. I also grew up in a fishing family. Both sides of my family are in the fishing community. My dad is actually heading up to Seattle for shipyard here shortly at 72. So, and I have also
just a couple fishermen's daughters here.
Here we are. Yep. And I was very impacted by that as a young person. The irregularity and the inconsistency is challenging for everybody. And as Cari spoke to, especially the insurance. My father was injured on a boat and had to take over a year off, which was incredibly impactful for our family. Not having that income come in made a huge difference. And it was a long road to recovery, very challenging for him without that insurance and that support. So being able to reach out on a community level and say, look, these are all these different options we have is so valuable for these folks. Again, we have an amazing behavioral health program here at Lincoln County Public Health, but for folks who might need immediate care, there are additional resources. So we do have a 24-hour hotline that folks can call for mental health crises. And that doesn't have to be a crisis in, I'm feeling suicidal at this moment, but maybe it's just a mental health, I need somebody to talk to at this moment. We do have that helpline available 24 hours a day. There's also 988, which is available state and nationwide, which is a really wonderful resource. And then there's also the Agri-Stress Helpline, which is supported by OSU. This is a hotline run by folks in agricultural and rural communities who have lived experience in these very niche careers like logging, like the timber industry, like agricultural fields, and our fishing community. So if folks need somebody to talk to, just to get them through that moment, there's somebody who understands those stressors in a very real life way and can help that person process through these things.
So, Cari, is there anything else that you would like to add or anything else that you would like folks to know about?
I appreciate Lincoln County Mental Health just like partnering, and I know that Jesse and I have been talking. We've really been brainstorming at the Fisherman's Appreciation, and we're excited to try to bring these mobile resources and some of the mobile training to the docks, to the boats, where guys are working, try to help get people in our fishing community educated on where they can get help, and continuing to become community navigators as fishermen's wives to help fishermen, obtain health insurance and dental insurance and mental health care and addiction support and all the things, housing and all the things that we talked about today. This is a beginning, and we just really want the community to know this is on our path. And yes, right now we're fighting this helicopter fight that seems so crazy, right? And so we're trying to keep them alive right now for crab season. And then we will be definitely moving forward with our health center needs for fishermen. And we really appreciate all of our community support and understanding fishing families when you see them at the schools, when you see them at places, and making a perception of who you think somebody is, or the amount of money they're driving a nice truck. Why are they at Lincoln County Mental Health, Public Health? It isn't always what it seems. People are working seasonally and appreciate workers and what they're doing. And that's so important. And also, health is supporting us in our fight right now for saving our helicopter here again. We did this 11 years ago, and here we go.
Here we go again. The fight's not over. How can people support Newport Fishermen's Wives?
You can donate. We do have a link on our webpage. It's newportfishermenswives.com. We have a donate now PayPal link. Also, if you're more comfortable sending a check, some people love to send a card and a check and talk about a family member or a friend that they knew that was a fisherman. And that's always possible at our local P.O. Box. It's Newport Fishermen's Wives, P.O. Box 971, Newport, Oregon. And I will be the one to get the mail and make sure that you get a donation receipt. And that's what helps us do the work.
It's tax deductible?
It is tax deductible. We're a 501c3. And that being said, as we move forward in things, we want people to understand that we can't speak on political issues. We can only speak on fishing issues that have to do with directly with fishing safety and fisheries promotion in our nonprofit status. And so unfortunately, in all of the situation that's going on in our community, please know our hearts are with everyone, but we legally can only speak on our issues.
And Jesse, anything you'd like to add as we're wrapping up?
Absolutely. I'm in the same position. I can only speak from a public health perspective, but what I can say from a public health perspective, as well as from a member of the fishing community, is that the loss of the helicopter is something that is traumatic for our community. And there may be people who are feeling a lot of feelings right now and just need to get that out. And we are here to support that in whatever way that looks like, be it through a behavioral health meeting, through supporting finding telehealth that they can access on the boats, as well as mental health training. So we do have a QPR, that's a question, persuade, refer training, and is a suicide prevention training. It only takes about an hour, and that's going to be coming up on December 11th at 3 p.m. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to our health promotion department, and we will link that information as well if that's something you're interested in doing. I'm going to be continuing to partner with Fishermen's Wives as well as OSU to provide fishermen first aid trainings, help raise awareness of different substances that folks might be at risk of, how to mitigate that risk, and how best to help people while they're out at sea. And there will be another one of those, I know, coming up later this winter, although I don't believe a date has been determined. But I'm also available to provide individualized trainings for folks who need it, be it a naloxone training or just a substance risk overall training, or I can link them to the folks doing the mental health trainings as well. We just really want folks to be aware that we are here for you. Where you are at, Lincoln County Public Health is all about harm reduction, and harm reduction is both a theory and a practice. It is about looking at a risky event, and fishing is certainly something that is a lot of inherent risk, and simply mitigating that risk. We're here to mitigate that risk both physically as well as mentally.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for providing this important information to our community. And thank you for joining me on Coffee with Kiera. Again, we are sponsored by the Human Being in Newport at 6th Street and
Cheers.
Highway 101, and in Lincoln City at the north end of the highway on the west side next to TLC Credit Union. Thanks for joining me. I'm Kiera Morgan.